Hello BookTube, my name is Elizabeth. Welcome or welcome back to my channel, Book as in Books. This is my face without glasses. I think it's the first time you're seeing that in all of my videos. And the reason is simple. I'm filming with my ring light and there's just so much glare in my glasses. It's really annoying. So I decided to remove my glasses. And now I'm a badger. I don't see anything. But I don't need to see to make a video. Perhaps it's even better if I don't see myself in the video, because even though the phone is about like 1 foot away from me, I cannot really see the, I can see where my face is, but I cannot see the details of it. So I'm very myopic. Anyway, I want to start by thanking everyone who sent me good wishes, because in my last video I had COVID and now I'm much better, as you can hear. It lasted about 5 days and I cannot say that I had it really hard. It was like a big cold, a harsh cold, but it was just a cold. It lasted 5 days that I really couldn't do anything. I just watched YouTube video, very little BookTube because that was too demanding, because I watched videos of dogs and cats, and at some point I watched Fraggle Rock. My brain was not functioning really well, but now I'm back on track. Now I can read again. So this is my pile of possibilities for the month of May. Also, I want to say that I'm going to come back on People April, the readathon that I hosted with Roz from Scandling about the books in April, and I was really overwhelmed by all the positive reaction, and I want to do a wrap up of that. So that's going to be in the next few days, hopefully, if I can get back into the beat of filming. I think that's the biggest thing about COVID. It sort of took me out of my routine, and now I don't know how I used to film videos anymore. I couldn't find the time anymore. So anyway, so now I'm filming a video, and as I said, this is a pile of possibilities for the month of May. And there are just so many great readathons in May. And there are some readathons I will not participate in, even though I want to. They sound so great. So at the moment, I have limited my objectives to 7 readathons, which already I think is not bad. So the readathons are, I wrote them on a piece of paper just to make sure I would not forget any. Misery May, Mental Health May, Springathon, Enchanted April, Asian Readathon, May of the Moderns, and Historathon 2023. So I'm going to leave links in the description. I'm going to leave links in the description box below to all of the readathons, to the announcements, to the hosts. I'm going to leave all the information there, or at least links to the information. I will not necessarily leave the prompts for every readathon, because that I don't think I will have enough room in the description box for that. So let's start with the first one that I mentioned, Misery May. For that is a readathon hosted by Scott from Gunpowder Fiction and Plot and Gemma from Gem of Books. And it's a readathon devoted to Thomas Hardy. And they have a group read, and that group read is Jude the Obscure. And I'm going to join the group. I'm filming this in May, and I'm filming this on May 3. Yeah, it's May 3. And I'm already at chapter 10. So, yes, so far I'm not convinced. But anyway, it's good. It's starting well. So apparently this is a super sad book. It's a how do they call it? Misery porn, something like that. It's supposed to be a character to whom nothing good happens, just all the bad things happen to him. And already after 10 chapters, after not even 10, after 9 chapters, a few bad things have happened to him, including a bad marriage. Anyway, so that's my participation in Misery May. There are other prompts. So the first prompt is to read a book by Thomas Hardy, so I'm doing that with the group read. The second prompt is to read a short story or a poem by Hardy. I could do that. That doesn't take a lot of time, and that's easy to find on the internet. It's public domain. The third prompt is to read a miserable book. I may have a miserable book in something else, but I haven't chosen anything specific for that. And then there are 3 other prompts which are single word prompts, and I'm just going to ignore them. So this is my main participation for Misery May. If I happen to read another miserable book for another readathon, then it's just going to combine and just fit perfectly. But that's my contribution, my participation for Misery May, and that's the 3rd time that I've said that. Let's move on. The second readathon that I mentioned, Mental Health May. So this one is hosted by Kim at Middle of the Book March and Marilyn Maya Mendoza. I did not write the names of the hosts on my little piece of paper, so I'm doing that all by heart. I'll stop saying So this mental health May. So this is a readathon meant to highlight the importance of mental health. You can read non-fiction, you can read fiction where a character has a mental health issue or anything that you want that is related. There are prompts, and once again, I'll just ignore them. So the book that I intend to read is Mindfulness in Plain English by Henepola Gunaratana. I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly. The reason is, well, I saw the title in an article in the New York Times. It was 10 books to get into meditation, something like that. And some of the videos that I watched while I was sick were relaxation videos and meditation videos. And I've never really tried meditation, but I think it could be something I could appreciate. Recently, sometimes life has been a little more stressful than it used to be for me. I have to admit, I live a very selfish life. I don't have many obligations. I don't have children. I don't have to take care of my elderly parents. They're still taking care of themselves very well. But I can see the day where that will not be the case. And I think that I will need some tools to not stress too much. And I'm thinking that meditation could be something important. And also at work, there could be stuff could happen in the next few months, few years, big changes could happen. So yeah, perhaps learning how to meditate could be something good for my mental health. So that's going to be hopefully my participation in Mental Health May. And once again, it may happen that in other books I will read, there will be some characters with mental health issues, and then I will just combine the two readathons. And all of this is a pile of possibilities. I'm saying I'm going to read this, but chances are I'm not going to read half the books that I mentioned in this video. But I'm going to try. The next two readathons, I will combine them. So there's Springathon, which is hosted by Nathalie from Curious Reader, Heidi from My Reading Life, and Doris from Aldi Books. And this is a readathon about nature writing. Technically, it's just the first 2 weeks of May, but I'm going to extend it for the entire month of May. And the second readathon, Enchanted Spring, is hosted by Ellie from My Cozy Chronicle and Rainey from Rainy Day Reads, I think. Anyway, links in the description box below, just to be sure. And this readathon is not about specifically a type of literature, a type of book. It's just some prompts to celebrate spring, I guess. So the first prompt is to read a book about a new beginning. The second prompt is to read a book about nature, and that's where it fits completely with Springathon. So I'm combining both readathons. And for that, I have just a book. For that, it's A Polar Affair, without the glare, A Polar Affair by Lloyd Spencer Davis. And it is about George Murray Levick, who was a physician on Robert Falcon Scott's tragic Antarctic expedition of 1910. He was marooned somewhere while the others continued towards the South Pole, and while he was marooned, he decided to observe a colony of penguins. So it's about his work on the penguins, and it's also about his life. So it's a part biography, part nature writing. So that's a book that I bought at a library sale last month. So this is going to be the perfect fit. And it also fits the second prompt, the third prompt of Enchanted Spring, which is a book about exploration. So this is obviously a bit about exploration. So yeah, that's my participation for Springathon and Enchanted Spring. My planned participation, because once again, I don't know if all of this is going to happen. The next readathon I want to participate in is the Asian Readathon, which is a big event on BookTube. It is hosted by With Cindy. There are multiple prompts, but I'm just going to ignore them. I think that it's going to be the theme for quite a few of these readathons. I'm just going to ignore the prompts. But basically, all you have to do to participate in that readathon is to read one book by an Asian author. And that's not difficult. I have books by Asian authors. So the one that I will focus on, hopefully, is this one that I bought on sale because it's a bit damaged. The title in English is Child of All Nations. It is by the author whose name I cannot pronounce, Pramoedya, Pramoedya Ananta Toer, commonly called Pram in his native Indonesia. So I'll go for that, Pram. And this is the second volume in a quartet. I read the first one in February, I think, and this is the second one. So I don't know exactly what the story, well, I figure it's going to pick up where the other one left off. So at the end of the first one, that's the thing, I don't want to spoil the first one if you haven't read it. But anyway, the first one is about the coming of age of our main character. And at the end of the first volume, he just got married. I don't think it's a big spoiler. So he just got married, but something happened shortly after the marriage. And I guess this picks up there with the massive problem that happened at the end of the first book. We are going to see how it's going to be solved, hopefully, in this second book. My other possibility for the Asian Readathon is the Epic of Gilgamesh by nobody knows who. I don't think I'm going to read this in May, let's be honest here. I think I'm going to read this in June for Ancientsathon, which was already announced. That one is hosted by, who is it hosted by? Toer from Good Strong Words, David Wiley, and Jennifer Brooks. So I'm going to leave a link to that readathon too, but that one is in June. So chances are Gilgamesh will wait for June because I just have too many books to read in May. The next readathon is Historathon 2023. So this one is not specific to May, it's a year-long readathon. For the first 3 months, we were invited to read non-fiction books of history that related to the period, that were about the period from prehistory to the year 500, so prehistory and antiquity, basically. So now we are in the second quarter of the year, so it started at the beginning of April and it's going to end in June, and it covers the period 500 to 1500. And at the beginning of the year, I was super enthusiastic about that readathon, but somehow I sort of forgot about it. I started to read books for the BookTube prize, and then in April I had People April, and so I did not really read anything for Historathon 2023, but I want to correct that. So either in May or in June I would like to read something, and that would be 1491 by Charles C. Mann. So as the title says, it's just right before the end of the period, 1500. But I think it covers the years in North America, not North America, in the Americas, so from South America, Central America, and North America, before the arrival of Christopher Columbus. So it probably covers also before 1491. I think it's a bit a portrait of what was there in 1491, but I suspect that it's not just that year, it's also before. So hopefully I'm going to finally get to that book in this quarter. Fingers crossed. And okay, I'm really out of breath. I don't know why I'm panicking like this. It's not like the video will explode or self-destroy if I don't finish it in 15 minutes. Mindfulness. I need mindfulness. And I've dropped my paper. Doesn't matter. There's just one readathon left, and that one is May of the Moderns. And that is the readathon I want to focus on. This one is, oh, I forgot to say, Historathon 2023 is hosted by a whole bunch of people, but it is the brainchild of Vin of Revenant Reads. So link in the description box. So back to May of the Moderns. So May of the Moderns, it is hosted by Margaret Pinard, and she said that it would be the last year that she would host it. And I'm very sad because I really love this readathon. And so this is about literature published between 1900 and 1945. I suppose you could stretch a little bit, but that's basically it. It's the period of the moderns. And there are prompts, and I am not going to ignore them. I'm not necessarily going to read something for every prompt. At the moment, I have nothing for the first prompt. The first prompt is Irish or Celtic, and I have nothing. I suppose that I could try some James Joyce. I've never read any James Joyce. And Alan from Big Hard Books and Classics, yes, he recommends to start with Dubliners by James Joyce if you've never read anything. So that could be an option, potentially. And I'm pretty sure it's in the public domain, so I could just go grab it on Project Gutenberg, and that would be that. So that would be sort of the easy option. But I don't think that I'm going to get to that, because I have so many other books. I might as well show you the pile just like this. So this is my pile of possibilities for May of the Moderns. So, okay, I said that I would respect the prompt somewhat. The second prompt was, my books are not in the order of the prompts. The second prompt was to read something that is not from a European writer, not from North America or Europe. So a book from South America, Africa, or Asia. And for that, I have Ficciones by Jorge Luis Borges. So this is a collection of short stories. It was published in 1944. So it is just in the period. And I started reading this for Classics and Company, which is the book club hosted by Anne Novella and Micah Cummins. And we started, that's not the book for the book club. The book for the book club is the complete works of Borges, the complete fiction of Borges, not just Ficciones, which is one collection of short story. It's a big book like this big. And they have gone a good way through it because they have 6 weeks to read it. It started on April 1st, and I so far have read the first short story. The first or the second too? Oh, I've read the second too. So I've read 2 of the short stories so far. So yeah, I still have work to do. So we have until mid-May, and then in mid-May, it's another book that becomes the book of, for the book club. So I'm going to try to finish this before May 15. So so Borges is from Argentina. The third prompt is a book in translation. And of course, this fits the bill because it was originally written in Spanish. Now, of course, my edition happens to have the Spanish on one side and the French on the other side. But my Spanish is not good enough that I can read the original. I'm reading the translation. Sometimes what I do is that I read the French and then I go to the Spanish and then I can understand. But if I go straight to the Spanish, I will not understand. So it's not so much that I understand, but I recognize what I've just read. Oh, that's that. Oh, okay, that means that. Okay, so I need the French first. So I'm reading it in translation. But I also have another option for that, for a book in translation. It's one from Asia, so it fits also with the Asian Readathon. And it is this. That's the thing, I don't have an English title for this. So the author is Yu Dafu. So if I translate this, it means Autumn River, something like that. And this is a collection of 3 short stories or novellas. The first one is rather novella, it's over 100 pages, but the last one is really a short story, the one that gives the title to the book. It's really a short story, it's about 20-30 pages. So I don't know if there's an equivalent to this collection of 3 short stories by this author in English, but I'm sure these short stories in question have been translated in English. So this was written in the 1920s when China was in the middle of an upheaval. The old imperial regime was slowly collapsing. The new regime wasn't there yet, so communism started in 1948, but there was a long civil war and there was a long chaotic period in China. Also, there was the invasion of Japan. It started with the invasion of Manchuria in the north, and then gradually the occupation starting in the 1937, I think. Anyway, so the 1920s, when these stories are written and when I think the stories are set, is really a period of upheaval in China. So yeah, I think this could be very interesting. The third prompt, no, that was the third. The fourth prompt is a book that you've had on your TBR for a long time. I have a lot of choice for that. Some books that are still on the shelves. I did not pick them up because I don't think I'm going to pick them up. So that includes a book by Hemingway, For Whom the Bell Tolls. I don't think I'm going to read it. I have Tender's the Night by Scott Fitzgerald. I don't think I'm going to read that. I have It Can't Happen Here by St. Clair Lewis. I don't think I'm going to read that. So the one that really fits the prompt for me would be The Age of Innocence by Edith Wharton. I bought this last year and I had been wanting to read it for a long time and I still haven't read it. So I think this is a high possibility for May of the Modern. So that would fit the prompt. Has been on your TBR for a long time. And then the last prompt is to read a genre fiction. And for that, I have 2 possibilities. Too many books. So the first possibility is The Black Moth by Georgette Heyer. This one was published in the 1920s and it is the first book that she published. And as you can probably guess from the cover, it is a romance. And Georgette Heyer is really the one who started the entire historical romance genre. And I think she wrote this one when she was 17. Her brother was sick and she decided to write him a story, and that basically became The Black Moth. And is it a Regency? I don't know exactly when it is set, but and the second possibility, I think it counts as genre fiction. That would be E.P.G. Wodehouse. So this is a collection of three books, 3 novels that were published at different periods, and the one that would fit the period is The Code of the Woosters, which is in this book. It was published in the 1930s. I don't remember exactly the date. So it would fit. I think it's genre fiction. I think comedic fiction can be considered as a genre, because this is not high literature. Well, it is extremely well written, but at the same time, there's a formula in there. If you take this book and then you compare, well, this book, any Jeeves and Wooster book, and you compare them, there's clearly a formula to them. So I guess for that reason, I would count it as a genre fiction. And I still have 3 other books for May of the Moderns that I would like to read. And they don't fit any of the categories, at least not for me. If you decide to read them, for you, it could be in the category book in translation. But they are French literature, so for me, I'm reading them in the original. One that I have already started, so it's a very high possibility. I've started it. It is a Claudine à l'école. In English, it is a Claudine at school, and it is by Willie and Colette. So who is the real author? So Colette is credited with inventing the character of Claudine. Her husband, Willie, was a writer of commercial fiction. He was extremely popular, and he was basically at the head of almost a small workshop of writers who were writing stuff for him in his name. And at some point, his wife, Colette, was bored, and he told her, well, just write something. And she wrote this, which was basically somewhat an exaggeration of her own school years. So Claudine is a 15-year-old girl who goes to school, and she's rather naughty in a sexual way with other young ladies. So it was a scandal at the time, but it was a good scandal, if I can call it that. It was extremely popular, and the picture on the cover is not the author Colette. It is the actress who played Claudine for years on the theater, because it became a play, and it's when it became a play that there was some sort of a Claudine frenzy, the equivalent of Harry Potter almost. It just, there were cookies, Claudine cookies and Claudine perfumes and Claudine soaps, and any object that you could sell, there was a picture of Claudine on it. So it was really a craze. And yeah, what I was saying was, it's not clear who the author is. At some point, Colette decided to sue her ex-husband, by then ex-husband, to gain the rights on the Claudines, because when they were published initially, it was just under the name of Willie, her husband's name. And she sued to get the copyright back. And the court concluded that Willie had indeed contributed a lot to Claudine, that Colette had not written this as a first draft, that they were both the authors. So that's why the 2 names are on it. So it's the creation of Colette, but we can assume that Willie also contributed quite a bit to the final product. So anyway, so that's the first book that I'm starting for May of the Moderns. Another book that I want to read, which was published in 1913, the title in English is The Lost Estate. And this is a gorgeous book, gorgeous cover. And if you look at the back, it's just a stupid glare. It's a continuation of the cover, like this. I could open it and it would make like a big picture. And I think it's just beautiful. I think the story of that book is some sort of thwarted love story. It is based, I guess it's a bit autofiction. So what happened is that the author, at some point, I think it was to Paris, I'm not sure. He went someplace. He met a woman. He talked to her for a couple of hours and fell madly in love with that woman. And then he went back to his village, and he never heard of the woman again. And he kept pining for that woman for years and years and years. So I think that is also the basis of the plot of this book. However, I don't know if the resolution is the same. In the case of the author, what happened is that some years later, he saw the woman again. And apparently this meeting of theirs years ago had not meant the same thing for her than it had for him. He had been just loving her distantly, loving the memory of their meeting for years and years, and she had gotten married, had children, and was living just fine without him. So yeah, the poor author was very, very sad. And that is the only book written by this author, because he was relatively young. He was in his 20s when he published this in 1913, and in 1914 he was killed during World War I. In the first few months, the war started in August, and I think he died in September, perhaps October, but anyway, he died very early on in the war. So that's the only book that we have by this author. So I've been wanting to read this for a long time. It's on a list that I was given when I was in high school, and I've been curious about it ever since, but have never read it. So that's a possibility. And the last possibility is this. Not the entire thing. So this is a library book, and it is a collection. It's the complete works of Nathalie. And most of her work was written post-1945, so most of it does not fit the period. However, the first one that she published, which is called Tropisms, I don't know what it's about, but I want to read it because it is considered as one of the foundational work of a literary movement that I hate, which in French is called the Nouveau Roman, so the new novel, I guess. And it's the type of book that is meant to be abstract. It's meant to bring abstraction to literature. So basically, no characters, no plot, no story. Is there any interest in a book that has no character, no plot, no story? I don't know. I've read one or two books like this, and I cannot say that I really like them. But the reason I want to read another one is that I want to check if I still don't like them. I have a friend who is like that. He is a foodie. He loves food, but he doesn't love everything. There are some types of food that he doesn't like. But he makes sure to test it periodically, just to check if indeed he really doesn't like that type of food, that precise ingredient, just in case his tastes changed, just in case the first time he tasted it, it just wasn't the right context, it just was not prepared correctly. So I figured that I perhaps should do the same thing. I'm not a particular fan of the Nouveau Roman movement, but doesn't mean that perhaps it's been, 10, 15 years since I read one. So perhaps with all of what I've read, perhaps I could appreciate it more. And the reason I chose Tropisms is that it's extremely short. I think in this book it's about 50 pages. It's just really a little nothing of a book. Not even a novella. It's a bit longer than a short story, but there's no story, so you cannot call it a short story. So anyway, it's the one thing that I would like to read for MAYhem the Mother in this book. And if I like it, I could read more, because I'm pretty sure that there are a couple of more works in there that fit the period. Or if they don't fit the period, doesn't matter, I can read them anyway. Yeah, that's my last option for the last. It's short, so I'm probably going to fit it in somewhere. But for this video, for the purpose of this video, this was my last option for MAYhem the Moderns. And that's it. Now I'm going to calm down a little bit and breathe. I don't know why I always do that. I'm always out of breath when I do my videos because I'm too excited, I guess. So anyway, that's it. So all of the information about the readathons will be in the description box below, and let me know in the comments if you intend to participate in any of these readathons, which one is your favorite. Oh, and perhaps I could leave some information about other readathons that I've seen that I'm not going to participate in. I've seen a Lucy Maud Montgomery readathon pass by. I'm not going to participate in that. I've seen a readathon based on Star Wars. It's May the Force, no, not May the Force. May the Read be with you. Something like that. May the Force Read be with you. May the Read be with you. Something of the sort. I'm going to leave a link to that too. And what else? I saw something else. Anyway. No, I know. Well, there was the Spoonies Readathon, which is a readathon about disability. And there was another one. Oh, Horror MAYhem. That's why I don't remember it, because I don't read horror, and it's rather popular anyway, so it doesn't necessarily need my participation. So that's over 10 readathons. That sounds super interesting, but I'm going to limit myself to 7, which I think is very reasonable. And yeah, the trick will be to combine, just to combine some books and some readathons, and with that, I'm going to be just fine. And also, I'm going to repeat, this is a pile of possibilities. I may read none of this and read other things. or I may read all of this. It's unlikely. But anyway, these are my possibilities. So thank you everyone for watching, and I will see you in the next video. À la prochaine!